Hey everyone. So this video is about my exploration with deity worship, and it may seem a simple matter, but it wasn't very simple for me actually. I think part of the reason was because I'm a Jain, which doesn't really have the Hindu type of deity worship. A lot later in life, when I started visiting different ashrams and interacting with monks and spiritual people, I kind of realized that in Jainism is considered as agnostic, as in they don't believe in God. I mean, that is like a very simple statement that usually people from other religions will say. But Jains often keep referring to God all the time. But when I thought more about it, there is a difference, because usually we are talking about the Tirthankars, who are in the main deities in the temple. And I call them deities only, but they are not really the typical, at least the typical Hindu deity, because the Tirthankars are very clearly like they took birth as humans and they have the entire story. I guess they are more like who we consider as enlightened beings, gurus and all, who take human birth and they do all the sadhana and eventually they reach like peak of enlightenment, and then they will establish a path for those coming behind. It's very different from the deities of Hindu religion, as y'all would realize, because most of the deities probably actually don't have a human birth and that whole thing. Even when we talk about Krishna, Rama and all, they took human birth, but they were still Vishnu avatars. So it was always different. Like, they didn't go through this entire process of sadhana, which then they were able to achieve enlightenment. That didn't happen for them, at least via the Hindu stories. But there are, of course, Jain stories which give the entire process of how they went through all of the sadhana and then they got enlightened. I anyway realized all of this a lot later in life. I was already, I had been to the Isha ashram and I was already doing the practices. So I would say the foundations of spirituality were already set, and but all of this exploration happened later. What happened is, when I had been to the Isha Yoga Center, that was in 2005, and then I was a full-time volunteer in 2007-8. That time only Dhyanalingam was there. Devi was still in process. Actually, the original Devi Murti was getting carved when I was there. So I sat when that Murti was being carved. But Devi herself hadn't really been consecrated yet, and the whole Devi path and the bhakti and the whole dynamics changed after that. So because only Dhyanalingam was there, I feel it was just more of an awareness path. There was not so much deity worship as such. With Devi, obviously, a whole aspect of the deity worship has come in, and the moment I started acquainting myself with her much later on, it felt like a blind spot. I couldn't get it. Still I'm a little bit like fuzzy around this whole deity worship thing. But I have a lot more ideas and thoughts on the matter and experiences also. I also realized that Jainism does not have any powerful Devi as such, a Devi element. So that is why also with Linga Bhairavi I was feeling a little bit of a blind spot. So I was muddling around all of this, and I was a little curious, I guess. Anyway, eventually my experience of deity worship happened with Ganesha. And I think it makes sense, because he is in a way one of the most friendliest, accessible kind of deities out there right now. Just so happened that I was on Ganesh Chaturthi. I had kind of rushed out and to get some plants, because I have been thinking for a while to get plants and it was just not happening. And finally, it just happened on the Ganesh Chaturthi day. All of a sudden, I got this bolt of inspiration and I said I must get it. And then I went to this nursery and I got a bunch of plants for my house, and along with it I got a big bag of mud. And just again filled with that inspiration, from that mud itself I created a little mud cake Ganpati. It was really cool. It's one of the first times I've done it. As you know, I am actually a Jain, so that Ganesh Chaturthi is also the Samvatsari day, which is a really big day for Jains. As it had happened, I had done nothing for the Paryushan. Maybe, I don't know, maybe something small. I had done nothing much. And then even Samvatsari, I did not manage to visit the temple, and the whole thing was connected. I said I have to go to the temple, and then that temple was near to the nursery, and I said this is also pending, let's do this also. And so I went to the temple. Temple was closed, so I actually could not even go inside. I just stood outside and did and moved on. But I did go to the nursery and I got the mud and I made that Ganesha. So that Ganesh Chaturthi and Samvatsari come hand in hand for me. So it's a kind of a dual thing going on. When we were in Mumbai, it was really amazing because I would be generally little bit surrounded by the whole pollution, Jain fervor of pollution and Samvatsari, and outside the Ganesha dolls will start beating. So it was always amazing for me. I will not actively go there until Samvatsari is over, but we are in Samvatsari mode and the dolls are beating, and it's really fun. I really enjoy. So last year, however, it took a little turn, as in I did not participate much in Paryushan, but then the Ganesh Chaturthi became a thing for me, because on Ganesh Chaturthi I made that Ganesha and then I kept it, and I was so attached to the Ganesha. And that was my first tryst with Deity Worship, which was with Ganesha, and it was really nice actually. It gave me some activity to do, like I was doing the Aarti twice a day. I just opened some YouTube video and I was doing that Aarti. And yeah, it helped me build that earth connection, and I was offering some prasad to it and then eating it or giving it to some people. So that also created some dynamics. I realized there are so many social elements, no, that like you get the prasad and you can give it to people, and if one is to do it on a larger scale, then on certain days people will visit or people will come to attend the Aarti and the whole socializing will happen. So I realized there are those two big aspects. One is the social aspect, and the second is on a personal level. It gives you activity. So you kind of take a break from the usual routine of life to kind of indulge in this Aarti and all, which is also very artistic. So it really helps with the emotional balance, because your emotions start becoming more dynamic. More than that, even psychologically, because sometimes, you know, maybe your marriage relationship is not good or the house situation is not good, but then you have this little corner where you're devoting so much time and some devotional bhav is coming up. So it will add a break into that whole house situation. And of course, if the house situation is already good, then I'm sure this will add to it, with everyone participating and leading to more camaraderie between the family members. And of course, in my case, I was totally alone, so that also helped. It puts that whole deity figure to connect with and have some kind of a relationship with, so that you're not completely alone if it is required. I'm sure there are a lot of solo people who are not like me. I mean, I am solo because I want to be solo. A lot of people whose spouse may have died or their children are far away and stuff, and they have that loneliness. So I'm sure this is a huge factor that addresses loneliness in the Indian scenario. So that is very powerful. So in these ways, I've realized that on a personal, emotional level, having that deity figure is very powerful. Both of this, however, is getting addressed with having a Tirthankar also. Like for Tirthankars also in Jains, you would have your Aartis and you will have all the social situations taking place. And there is the energy element also. Like we consider deity as a live being, right? Because it's a live energy force. Same way with a proper Tirthankar Murti and all the Jain stuff, I know of energy dynamics taking place in those houses as well. So I think on those levels it becomes at par. What really helped me is when I spent time with Ganesha and started thinking more of that deity, I also researched a little bit about him. I started relating with certain aspects of Ganesha, and I realized that whole thing within Hinduism, where each god has so many different aspects, so many different names, it is really powerful, because each one of us will resonate with specific aspects in a much bigger way, and that can become a very powerful thing. Right now I'm actually on my terrace, and if you see over here, there is one small Ganesha Murti. This flat over here is getting renovated, so I think they may have put Ganesha over here to start the renovation. I don't know. It was not there earlier, but it was here, and it was interesting because I'm shooting my Ganesha video here. So the aspects of Ganesha that resonated with me, one of the first ones was the fact that he is super intelligent. So that part I could really resonate with, because I've always had that personality thing, especially in my younger days. Now I'm a lot more balanced because I have been doing my yoga practices for such a long time, and my whole lifestyle is also honed as per my requirements. But when I was younger, I faced a huge problem, because I was of the Prakriti, which we are very intelligent, but we don't have the social skills. So I found it very difficult in school, college and all, because learning part was not a problem at all. In fact, I barely had to sit and study and I would get really good marks. But socializing was such a big headache. Oh my God. I think you're intelligent and all, but unless one is able to actually do something with that intelligence which will either help the world or at least make your life really, really good. Instead, if it just makes you suffer, it is the most stupid thing, isn't it? So, I have come to this realization over many years, but when I was doing the Ganesha worship, I kind of resonated with that aspect of Ganesha a lot because he is this massively intelligent person and completely balanced. So, I decided that next time if I ever face a problem with the intelligence not being beneficial in my life, then I will just think of Ganesha and use him as my inspiration, and hopefully his energies will help me to just ensure that my intelligence can also flower and life can also flower. Though this aspect of identifying inspiring qualities can also be done with Tirthankars, and they do. Jains do have rituals for sadhakas to imbibe the qualities of Tirthankars. So, fundamentally, for the sadhaka, is there a huge difference in worshipping the Tirthankar versus a deity? I can't talk about it right now. Maybe in the future, I would do a video on this. I think maybe it feels really basic to some of y'all, but I think it's interesting because for whatever reason, due to being a Jain and for whatever other reasons, I have this blind spot for deity worship, which I have slowly been looking at, and I think it's really nice because at this age, when I'm looking at deity worship and exploring it in small ways, I'm doing it from such a meaningful way. Otherwise, I think for a large mass of people, deity worship is so much of superstition and just belief and so many things which are not consciously created. So in that sense, I really like my whole journey. Since then, I have a lot of thoughts on deities and experiences also, which over time I may share with you all in different contexts. But anyway, this was my whole experience, the first deity worship experience, and that happened with Ganesha. And of course, it didn't end very well, that whole thing, because I did not want to let the Ganesha go, and it was already time to do the Visarjan. And obviously, as per the understanding, if you're going to keep the Ganesha for longer, then the rules become stricter and all that stuff. And one of the other difficulties that comes up, which I forgot to mention, is that especially like someone like me, if I just do Ganesha worship, I have no clue. I'm simply picking off aartis from the YouTube. And there are so many different types of aartis. Some are smaller, longer, different aartis. There is no one set of rules, and you know very well within India, like on YouTube, one thing will be there, but if you go to anyone's house, something else will be happening, because for each specific community, something different is there. So I do feel it's a little bit random to simply take up something like this, because there are so many past ties, right? You know, like all our family lineages, there have been consecrations and initiations that have taken place from generations, and so many things are flowing. So that part is pretty tricky actually. It's if really a strong pull is there, or if some connection happens, like for example, if I was to be staying and my neighbor was deep into Ganesha Bhakti and I took it from there, then I would just follow what that person is doing, and then because of the emotional bhav involved, it may be okay. But if that is not there, then it's different. Like Linga Bhairavi, if I was to take up, of course, there's a very clear thing, right? Because Sadhguru has only prescribed the sadhana and stuff. So I just have to follow that. Then I don't have to invent anything, or I don't have to take anything from some random community with whom I have no real connection. So this aspect is also there. So if people who are simply, like if you all are trying some new deity worship, how does it happen for you? If any stories are there, please share. And anyway, I was not able to sustain the bhakti, and I had kept the Ganesha. I did not submerge him into water, and that went on, and I felt a little bad. I don't think I did properly. Anyway, and then I started traveling, and I left the Ganesha Murti with my neighbor, and that was really not good. I felt very sad about it. I don't know how they would have kept it also. Anyway, then I came back, and that it was a mud cake, right? So that mud cake was already a little bit blurred out, and I took it and I submerged it once and for all. So I felt a little bit sad that I did it first time and I did in this fudgy manner, but I guess everyone has their own natural thing, and probably this also meant that some connection had happened, no, because I didn't want to let it go. So that was pretty exciting. Next year I was in Coimbatore actually, and when the Ganesh festival came, that pull was there, ki do it again. And I also came across this very beautiful earthen Ganesha that potter had made. It was actually such a nice idea. I could have just taken it and done these days again, but I didn't for whatever reason. Maybe I was scared that, how attached I got last time, again it will happen, I'll do some fudgy thing, because I was also a little bit scared. I always find this whole deity thing a little bit scary because, if you do wrong, they say the punishment will happen. I don't know. Though in Isha they keep saying like you should not worry because this is such a benevolent, but really, is it really like that? Because all of the deities do have that, that other Swarup also. Like Ganesha's Vigna Harta, he's also Vigna Karta. So they say the Vigna Karta will happen when something is not right for you, they will block it, but I don't know. Yeah, I'm just very cautious with these things, but it's interesting that I even explored this much. You know why I'm cautious, right? I have done that video previously where I talk about scary spiritual experiences, and I know a whole bunch of close family members and others who go through such weird experiences. And I definitely know of some people who had these attachments with specific deities, and they go to the temple and they make a wish and the wish will get fulfilled, but it becomes such a trap because they are so... That spiritual growth doesn't happen, no? They just get stuck to that thing of going to the temple, making a wish, having it fulfilled, and if it doesn't get fulfilled, then they are so miserable. It's almost like an addiction it becomes for them. So I've seen this. So anyway, that was my experience.